Welcome back to the Tavern Between Dimensions, a monthly tabletop RPG podcast.
So, on the back of the ONE D&D announcement, I've been kind of mulling over what my wish list for ONE D&D would be. Like, what are the things I want to see? What are the things I think will come out? What are they going to change? And I kind of wanted to pick your brains as well as to what you think is going to be happening with ONE D&D. Starting with you, Dan, Carl, what do you think they're going to be changing?
I think so. I mean, there's been a remarkable increase in the number of campaign settings.
Yeah.
That is, I think that's going to be an interesting thing where I feel that ONE D&D is becoming kind of more broad and mutable and flexible. It will more readily allow for kind of more campaign worlds, because when 5th edition came out, it was pretty much strictly Forgotten Realms. But after a while, we then had Eberron came out. We then had arguably twice, we've had all of the Critical Role stuff. But then
Avernus, Wild Beyond Windlights, we're going into other planes as well. So it's becoming more of a realm exploring.
I mean, it's exploring more non-Forgotten Worlds, Forgotten Realms stuff. I mean, even when you look at Van Richten's, that's a book of like 30 different worlds. And very, very recently we had Spelljammer, and we're due to have Dragonlance come out soon. So it'd be interesting to see what else does come out.
It's definitely going to be becoming more setting agnostic. That's definitely, we're moving away from Forgotten Realms and moving more into this sort of weird multiverse where anything and everything is possible, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, because actually, you mentioning multiverse, so I completely forgot about all of the Magic the Gathering stuff, which is 100% canon in the lore now. So
I mean, even in the playtest itself, it's got little tags on it about each race in the multiverse. So it will say humans in the multiverse, orcs in the multiverse. So it already looks like, as you said, it's heading down that way of becoming this universal spanning, multiverse of madness almost.
Yeah,
we're gonna reach into pop culture.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, there is one thing that I'm hard wish listing for.
Okay.
And that is for the virtual tabletop, that the official virtual tabletop to not suck.
Yes. Oh yes.
Because that virtual tabletop arguably has been in production since 4th edition.
But they try to recreate video games.
Well, then 4th edition was very much a video game in the way it was designed. So.
I mean, I was intrigued by the announcement and the talk about the virtual tabletop. I mean, obviously, we all use Foundry, and a lot of people playing D&D at the moment would have been introduced to it via a platform such as Foundry or Roll20 or any of the other VTTs. So to have like an official one is big news. Especially if now it ties in with D&D Beyond. So I always the fact that you can buy the books on D&D Beyond, the fact that purchases are going to be physical digital hybrids, so you only have to buy them once, and that can import, so you have it if you play at a table, you can log on to the VTT and play it there. But I also found it interesting that the VTT was kind of laid out almost from a point of view perspective, in so much that you can move the camera around and see the models kind of on a tiled grid.
You're right. It's almost like as if you're looking down on a table. That was the angle they were going for.
The only limitation of that is going to be people's hardware. Like, some browsers will deal with that better than others.
It'll probably just be an app, right? Just go on Steam, download Dungeons and Dragons, and then that's it.
Yeah, but then you're thinking about sort of like download times. Obviously, your web connection is going to be a big deciding factor, and not everywhere in, like, using just the UK as an example, not everywhere has super fast broadband.
Well, listen, I have played Dungeons and Dragons in many a strange place including Africa. So I beg to disagree. If it works in the far reaches of Gabon and Congo, it will work in the UK, I think.
I mean, it is like Carl does kind of raise a point. Like, whilst technology we have at home is kind of improving in great bounds and strides, like we are talking about a VTT that's running on an Unreal. I believe it's running on Unreal. And like that's not an insignificant amount of processing power to run,
especially through a browser.
If it's a browser, yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I massively hope that the VTT is good and the VTT is consistently supported.
Yes. Oh my god, yes.
If you kind of like the whole idea of like having that point of view thing, like so you can build your 3D battle man, it'll look like a Dwarven Forge, like it'll put Matt Mercer out of business entirely. But if you then find that there's only like one dungeon tile set, so all your dungeons look the same, all of your trees look the same.
No, they'll open it up because there's DM's Guild, and they'll do a DM's Guild for the VTT, right?
Yeah, but
right?
Then it depends on whether or not they'll accept like third-party stuff, because you know things like that will keep Foundry going. Like our good friend Birdie Maps, you know, they put out so many maps to put up on Foundry. It's whether or not the D&D 1 VTT would accept anything like that, or whether you have to use their particular tile set. Or that would be, I think, the biggest problem with it if it became like just so inclusive to their own stuff. Like they have to reach out to the community at this point, because in the end that's what D&D is. It's a community, and if they're not playing as part of the community, that's where that VTT will fall down.
Carl, what have you got planned, or what do you think they're going to change, and what would you want them to change?
I just really want to see from them the level of customization increase. Like what we're already seeing is, you know, customization upon customization upon customization, and I would love to see that grow even further. That, you know, in this sort of day and age, we all want to be our very particular heroes, and when we come across a rule that prevents us from doing that, we bounce against it. You know, I'd love to see that more. You know, that D&D modular D&D, like, you know, the way you build your character is entirely modular. Like fundamentally it is now. Your backgrounds decide your ability scores, which again is the thing. So you decide like, oh, I'm going to build a barista background. My character has been a barista for their entire life, so I'm going to have charisma and wisdom. Like that would make sense. Like charisma for talking to the customers, because you learn people's orders inside, and you know, wisdom because you've got to be, you know, which way inclined, and then all the different tools, but give you those kind of options that you can literally build the character that you want to build. And you know, with the inclusion, I know it's such a little thing, but common sign language, it's just again another thing to you know, it's created that ability for someone who may be sort of deaf themselves, who wants to create their perfect hero. They can now have the hero that can be like them, and you know, it's in the rules. It's rules as written. So I really want to see that the Lego piece D&D, like you buy the bits you want to buy, you clip them together, and you build what you want to build.
What you're saying is you want Pathfinder, right, Carl? That's what you want.
No, I mean I've played enough Pathfinder in the past. I find the learning curve of Pathfinder, I think, is always the gate there that a lot of people struggle to get past. But if D&D can have that level of character complexity with the sort of ease that D&D has, I think that they'd be onto something really good.
And it looks like they're on the right track as well.
They're
do. Really making it more simple.
Yeah, and I'd really love them to do is make D20 rolls just even more difficult. You know, that's just, you know,
D40, D30 rolls.
No, just D20, but you can only pass if you roll a 21 on a D20.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know, crits only on the 21.
Well, I mean, you mentioning that, like, the something that I really, really like about Powered by the Apocalypse games is, and I think you've mentioned about Tales from the Stars Without Numbers, is the idea of like tiered successes or like complications or whatnot.
That's more Tales, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Tails. I mean, to be fair, in the rulebook, in the current PHB, it talks about it kind of suggests like tiered successes. Like if you fail a roll by 1, then maybe the outcome isn't as grave as if you failed it by 10. Like, but it's like a line. If that were a much more prominent idea going forward, to really hammer home the idea of, for example, failing forward, like the yes buts, because at the moment, a lot of D&D is written in a very binary way. Like you either do the thing or you don't do the thing, and it's arguably when you look at it, like if you're picking a lock and you fail, well, the door stays locked. Whereas the vast majority of DM advice you see around on the internet, for example, it's just like if you fail, you still pick the lock, but you make a noise, or your lock picks are broken, or this, or that. And to have that really kind of hammered home would be really useful for new players.
Yeah. And I think it really does also change the way people engage with it. If you're constantly getting, no's thrown at you, it kind of eventually, it kind of wears down your enjoyment. Like in some cases it's fine. Like, I want to lift that mountain. No, that's not unreasonable. But if it's like, I'm going to open this door, you fail, you don't open the door. It's not conducive to a fun environment.
I mean, that literally stops the story.
Yeah. And the idea, as you've said, the idea of failing forward is a big trope in Tales from the Loop, because you're a bunch of kids, you fail, but the plot keeps going forward, because if you fail and you stop, that's the end of the story. Because the idea is, even in the 80s films, which is what they're kind of based on, if our heroes in these films failed on something, the film didn't just end and be like, see you later guys, go home, thanks for your money. The film carried on, because that's what happens. That's how you keep a story going.
There's that idea that the Die Hard film is actually the product of a number of branching timelines, where every time something goes slightly wrong for John McClane, and which would kill him, that's just a version of the movie we didn't get to watch.
Well, yeah, let's take
the one we've watched is past all his skill checks.
Well, if you take a scene, like this is a very quick scene, the duct scene. He's in the air duct, he jumps down, he grabs hold, but then the gun falls and pulls him, and he goes to a different vent after falling again. That's clearly fail your athletics check, but that's the DM pushing it forward, because if John McClane just falls down that shaft, he's dead. So instead, that's him failing forward. You fall. Oh no, the gun pulls you off. You get pulled back into the vent. You fluster for it, but you grab another one and pull yourself in. So I hope that D&D 1,
it's more like Die Hard.
It's more like it's basically more like Die Hard, that you can fail forward, and I wish that would be more part of the rules, because that is sometimes more fun.
Yeah.
And also can sometimes maybe get a little bit slapstick, but that in itself can be an enjoyable experience when your player is trying to be big and serious, fails, something really bad happens, they still succeed, but it's kind of like, shut up! So I meant to have done it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Anton, you posed this question to us, but now we're going to bounce it back at you.
Yeah, I have a list, right? Let's go down the list.
I half expected to get a scroll and just unfurl it and be like, item 1.
Pretty much
settle in, everyone.
Yeah. So, what do I think they're going to be changing? They're going to be messing with bonus actions. Something's going to happen with them. I don't think they're going to quite get rid of them, but definitely extra attack bonus actions. Something's going to happen to that. I don't think they've been very happy, and I don't think everybody else has been very happy that if you want to do the extra attack, you have to use your bonus action. I think they're going to change the way light weapons works or two-handed combat works, because it's been confusing. Don't know if you agree with me on that,
no,
but I think
two-weapon fighting, I think, has needed a change for it. Because the amount of different editions and different game settings I've seen, and two-weapon fighting is always just isn't always as good as it should be.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see a new two-weapon fighting.
Dan, do you agree? You don't agree?
I mean, at the risk of sounding like one of those guys, like the whole two-weapon fighting thing in itself is a bit of an eyebrow raiser anyway. Like, it's definitely a movie fighting style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sure, like rapier and dagger, fine.
Yep.
But like, oh, I'm dual wielding battle axes, like, ooh. So, yeah, it's a tough one because mechanically, when you boil it down, yeah, two weapon fighting heavily falls behind great weapon fighting, like two-handed weapon fighting.
Yeah.
So it may be something. I don't know if bonus actions will come into it.
They're going to change it. I think they're going to change it.
I think bonus action is kind of very good the way it works at the moment. I don't think they'll change it, but maybe they'll give it a bit more of an economy.
One thing I will concede, actually thinking about it, I do think, actually maybe, but I think bonus actions will get reined in slightly because we're now in a position where a lot of stuff triggers off a bonus action. So you have a lot of players who probably sit there going, what can I do with my bonus action? Rather than, oh, I can do this as a bonus action. Like the use of a bonus action is an expectation, not a privilege.
Yeah. And like, I think in that same regard, I think reactions are going to make a comeback. I think they were kind of worried when they first started 5th edition that, there'd be too many things happening. I think reactions are absolutely fine. Why? Because it keeps players engaged. If I know I have a thing in my pocket I can do at any time, if there's a specific trigger, I'm going to be watching the game very attentively. Whereas if I'm like, oh yeah, my run is in like 5 minutes because we have to go through 10 rounds of initiative, whatever, I don't care. So I think reactions, watch out, they're coming back.
Okay.
There is an interesting mechanic in Stars Without Numbers that I think would work really well with reactions, and that's basically called a snap attack. For a negative to your, I think it was the negative to your attack, you can basically attack out of turn, basically where you're sort of like panicking, basically, and suddenly you're being charged by that barbarian, you can turn around and be like, oh, I do a snap attack, and it's suddenly you go, but you do so at a slightly less thing. I think that would be an interesting do in mechanics, to have that ability to maybe act out of turn to change the flow of combat slightly, but with some form of negative. Maybe like how the way Reckless Attacker works. I don't know.
Okay, interesting.
That's interesting.
A few other things going down the list. Short rest as a mechanic is dead. Right? Short rests are gone. They're gone.
No.
You will still be able to short rest and heal up, but your abilities will no longer reset on a short rest. Why? Because short rest is too dependent on the type of campaign, the type of game, the type of DM. You're just not able to determine how many short rests you're going to get in a given day. So it's not a reliable way of resetting a character's abilities.
The only thing that I think would come of that, and then I'll let you say your piece, Dan, is you'll just get players begging for a long rest more. Yeah, you
can only have one in 24 hours. That's it.
Yeah, but you'll just be replacing short rest with more long rest. That's it. At least with a short rest, you kind of
you can't have more long rests. You only have one long rest.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's Dan.
Here's the argument. Yeah, I mean Anton is right. By the book, you can only have one rest, one long rest per 24 hours. But that's arguably either forgotten, or I'll be honest, I've forgotten it, or you end up just doing a fight a day.
Yeah, and I think that will be the expectation, is that you do 1, 2, 3 fights a day, and not 5, 6, which is what the original Player's Handbook was kind of basing it off on.
I mean, my counter argument to it, like in 4th edition, short rests were like, it was a relatively flexible time, but the idea was it was around 5 minutes. So like long enough that you pause and take a breath, but like not long enough that you might get your packed lunch out.
Yeah, but then
which is short rest.
Then 4th edition had those like 3 tiers of powers, didn't it? You had your at wills, your ones that would obviously reset technically on a short rest, and your ones that would reset on a long rest. So at least that way, short rest had a more mechanical bonus in 4.
Yeah, but I mean, you could argue that those kind of encounter abilities from 4th edition is basically what the fighter is decked out with in 5th edition. Like, sure, wizards, clerics, and the like the long rest classes, it could be argued that they feel more powerful because DMs don't use a whole lot of short rests. But there's also a part of me, narratively, it's just like, if you are going through an enemy stronghold and you've spelt out you can't take a long rest here. It's 8 hours. Like, is stopping for an hour much better?
Nah.
Like,
So,
are we going to hide in
maybe
this
the solution-
room for an hour rather
Yeah,
than
maybe
8
the solution is reducing short rest to a smaller time.
Well, that I think is down to the DM. Like, yeah, you can everything you can do as written in the book. But as a DM, you have the ability to turn around and be like, in my setting, short rest will be like a 5-minute breather. Like, if you do it by the book, then you're beholding yourself to the rules. When in itself, it's a concept. It is a short rest. That could be 5 minutes to an hour. Like, you have that control.
I mean, yeah, in Cormier, I've kind of thrown the stock concepts of long and short rest right out the window, haven't I? Like, you can go days without a long rest. And if nothing else, that's just me making sure that the characters in the party that get stuff recharging on short rests get to see that benefit. Like, Katya getting her bardic inspirations back. Slate getting their wild shapes back. Like, I want that to feel good because that's designed to be based on short rest. So yeah, if you're traveling across the country and you sleep for the night for 8 hours, you're not getting a long rest, because I've come up with a reason why you're not getting a long rest. But that keeps the adventuring day and spreads it out. But yeah, maybe that could change.
Okay, short rests are getting a change. I think this is spicy. All right, so I think subclasses are gone. Subclasses are gone. Yeah.
Hog swallop.
Absolute tosh.
A series of Unearthed Arcanas that also unveil new versions of subclasses, as well as some brand new subclasses for those classes. The total number of subclasses when all is said and done, 48.
Now, here's the thing I want them to change.
Yeah.
All right, this is this thing I changed and what I want them to change. Dexterity, Dex is OP, right? Buff strength, please. All right, I'm tired of having every single build being Dex, right? Dexterity for initiative, that is gone. Okay, I want them to change that. I want them to change that because they've already started experimenting with plus wisdom. I don't know how they're going to sort it out, but they're going to do something about it. So, what else I want them to change? I want them to change spellcasting so that there's more modularity, especially in terms of the damage type you do. So I want them to be a feat or something feature that says, oh, you can cast this fire spell, but if you want, it could be an ice spell, or it could, a frost spell, or it could be a lightning spell, or it could be a sound spell. You can customize this spell to do the damage type you want.
I would like that, but I think there should actually be proper rules for spell creation, like really proper rules for spell creation. That would be quite nice, because then look, if you look at things like the Acquisitions Incorporated, Jim Dark Magic has created quite a few spells now that have actually ended up as canological spells.
Yeah, that give him royalties actually, but yes.
Yeah. So, but then those spells have ended up. Some of them have ended up being quite good and ended up in proper campaigns and things. So, the idea of having spell creation would be an awesome thing to have. And again, going back to my sort of like more customization that you could create. Just imagine if Scanlan could create an actual spell called Scanlan's Hand. Maybe like taking the bits of Bigsby's, but again, as you said, customizing it to be more the flavor that he wanted it to be. Or, Dan, your Shia Lovecraft taking a spell and creating a spell that works for him.
To be fair, I mean, in Tasha's, there's a segment on customizing your spells. So the groundwork is already there. I mean, the example that I can think of, because it's an art piece that stuck with me, is a halfling farmer casting magic missile, but this farmer's magic missiles look like chickens. He's just firing arcane chickens at people.
Pretty good.
But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's an easy you're effectively erasing the order of scribes wizard, Anton. Just kind of going, this firebolt is a nice bolt. Boom, done. The potential problem you could run into is that some elemental spells are the number of creatures that resist for example.
Yeah, just
So
fix
fire,
that. Yeah.
Fire
Yeah,
is
it was heavily resisted, and you could
So
change
you
it and
just
get an
go-
advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, so you just turn around and go, I'm a wizard, and this is a force bolt, and this is magic force
You can
isles.
limit the
and-
number of users. There's a way of capping the power. Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
I would probably
My
The order of
last-
scribes what wizard.
Ooh, go Carl.
I would probably sort of say that if you customize a spell, you're probably like hard locked in for like the level, so to speak. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to change this now into a fireball or an ice. You know, maybe making it so you're actually manipulating that spell and it sticks until a point where you can alter it again.
Yeah. My last and final spicy change that I think they're going to make, or rather, I think I want them to change, get rid of sorcerers, right? They're just inferior. They're just inferior charisma wizards, right? They have a reduced spell list and they have charisma. That is all they do. So in my 1D&D wish list, I think we should just get rid of wizards. Sorry, get rid of sorcerers and just call them what they really are. It's talentless wizards.
And
Anton,
everyone thought Ranton with Anton was a one-off.
I was about to say we managed to appease all the clerics you pissed off with Ranton with Anton, and
Yeah, I've paid them off.
you've just gone for like the sorcerers. Like
Yeah, I've paid them off. We need a
sorcerers
new
are some of our
target.
best patrons.
I know. We need a new target, and it shall be sorcerers. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my
No,
1D&D wish list.
no.
Thank you very much for watching.
No.
See you next time.
Why? Why would they get rid of sorcerers?
Put it there.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. He has absolutely no reason for it. He just hates sorcerers.
No. I'm just refusing to. This will be the subject of a rant on with Anton. There we go.
Oh, that's
Watch
a
this space,
spicy,
I
a
suppose.
spicy cliffhanger. Yeah. Okay. One thing I would say is, I hope that combat gets a shuffle, a shuffle about. I mean, the Cormier campaign, everyone's level 10, and I would argue that it's around this level that the cracks in the combat system begin to show, and I have a suspicion that we might chat about this in the very near future. But I think that high level combat needs to tweak, because every time a character levels up and then gains more choice, that naturally increases time taken. It increases, like, power increases exponentially. You get into this kind of weird arms race where PCs are very powerful, and arguably they get more powerful than the monsters as they level up. But arguably the answer is not to make monsters more powerful. It's hard to threaten a high level party, and arguably danger begets excitement. And when you can't make the players feel like they're in danger, you can arguably say this. So, I mean, earlier we were saying that, like, level 1 PCs, you could get crit and die. But, like, when you're at level 2 or 3 and you pull a clutch victory, that feels sweeter than it does at higher levels, I would argue.
I don't know. I think we just had a couple of really good clutch victories in EOE.
Yeah, but that's because the stuff I'm throwing at you is far beyond the scope of what's explained within the rulebook. Like, I'm tailoring stuff for high level combat, and I know obviously we should be doing that, but I'm pulling ideas from outside of any of the published books to throw those at you. But yeah, there we go.
Thanks for watching. We release segments like this from the Tavern Between Dimensions every Friday here on the Explorers of Elsewhere channel. Otherwise, if you want to listen to the episode in full, you can check us out on Spotify and Amazon Music.